So, welcome to the fourth episode of AT Talks. Here with another guest, Nick. He's a good friend of mine, and we've known each other for a while. Yeah, we basically do similar stuff in terms of business, and yeah, tell the people something more about yourself, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. So basically, I run a consulting business related to Instagram. So we help entrepreneurs with their marketing, with their sales, and basically get more clients via Instagram or beginners. If they want to start and they want to build a brand on Instagram, we can help those people as well.
Yeah, and how long have you been doing that for?
It's been 4 years right now. I started at 18 years old. Now I'm 22.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been an awesome journey, man. A lot of ups and downs, and it's been fun for sure.
Yeah, yeah, because you were living in the Netherlands before, right? And you moved to Bali, I thought first, or
Yeah, so I grew up in the Netherlands at 18 years old. First, I went to college for 3 months, actually.
mm-hmm.
Hated it. I don't like the way they teach. I thought it was different than high school, but
Yeah,
it's just kind of an extension of high school. A lot of broad stuff, not really practical. Also, the social media game is changing very fast, right?
yeah,
Um, Basically, I studied commercial economics and social media. So all the stuff we learned was outdated. It
yeah,
was,
yeah,
yeah, it worked maybe a couple of years ago. And all the stuff I was learning online from entrepreneurs, I was buying courses at the time, was up to date. It's people in the trenches. So that was way more interesting to me. So I just decided to quit and decided to start traveling the world. And yeah, man, take a huge leap of faith, go to Chiang Mai, Thailand.
yeah.
Later on, I went to Spain and go back to Thailand. But yeah, first Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Okay, and how was that like when, for example, moving out or at least moving away from or like traveling to another country, like after kind of well dropping out of college, that's what you could call it. It was I felt I would feel that for example, people around you kind of neglect that or at least push you away even. Like how did friends of yours react or your family, you know?
Yeah, yeah, man. I still remember the look on the face of my teacher in college when I
Mm-hmm.
said I'm dropping out. I'm starting my own business. I think he thought that I was crazy.
Yeah,
Like he thought, like, what are you doing? Like nobody does that. Like, do you really think that's even possible?
yeah,
And obviously, my parents, different generation, they don't really. Yeah, I mean, they didn't support it at all. But they said, okay, it's your decision. You have to do what you got to do.
mm-hmm.
Just show it to us, right? Like, yeah, if this is what you want to do, do it. But they didn't support it. Like nobody truly believed that. Yeah, that I had
Yeah.
to do that. Like
And how
they
did you
just say,
feel?
go to
How did you
college.
feel the support? Like how did you, or at least not feel the support? Like were they kind of how were they not supporting you? Sorry, better question.
Um, like I told my mom that I wanted to quit, and she was just in shock, right? Crying, like, well,
Yeah,
how can you do this? Um, it seemed like a big risk, but for me, like, I knew I had to do this. Like, I knew this is my path. This is what I want to do.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, she let me go, but she didn't support it, basically, and she just said, "Okay, do your thing, but we don't really,
Stand behind
yeah,
it.
say, yeah, it's not the right path. Probably
Yeah,
for they thought,
yeah.
yeah,
It
too
would have.
risky."
Yeah, it would have been pretty hard for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect their support because I can also understand that from their perspective. I mean, they've been
Yeah,
brought up with the whole beliefs of go to college, get your degree. Like, obviously, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's a different route. Like, most people don't go that route. It's maybe
mm-hmm.
5-10% of the population. So I totally get that they don't support it. I get where they're coming from. So I didn't even expect their support, honestly.
Yeah,
And I don't think you need their support either. Like, as long as you believe in yourself, like that's all you need.
yeah, yeah. Definitely agree. Like the entrepreneurial journey is a pretty lonely road at times, but it can also be very like opening and eye opening towards like for example networking with other people. At least that's what I felt like getting to know people. For example, like you, he's also from the Netherlands, obviously, and it's just really funny, like how situations are kind of similar for a lot of people or a lot of entrepreneurs, but still different. And I
Yeah,
think that's really interesting to kind of see that perspective and obviously like the both sides of the coin, kind of. But how did you like network with other people, and like have you done that so far, like, or have you just been
Yeah,
doing it
so
yourself?
yeah, one of the main reasons I want to go to Thailand is to network, right? So there's a bunch of digital nomads in Thailand. Like that's where the kind of the beginner entrepreneurs go
Mm-hmm.
and like meet up, go work in cafes and stuff like that. So I wanted to be around those people and meet people. And I've met a lot of people like drop shippers, like all kinds of entrepreneurs. And that's just how you surround yourself. Like you just gotta go where they go, right? If they, but in the beginning, it's super lonely, you know. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good because you're not distracted by all kinds of people. But eventually, you need to surround yourself with the right people and like-minded people. People think the same way. It's really important because
Yeah.
otherwise, it's just a lonely road, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Definitely agree.
yeah.
And
And
what
there's a
kind of,
lot of people like us.
yeah,
So
very true, very true. And what kind of tip would you give, for example, people in a situation that can't really move to another country that quick? Like, what kind of tip would you give them in terms of surroundings?
if you mean like if they move to
Like,
another country.
let's say they're just living with their parents and going to college, and they're kind of building their business on the side, kind of like my situation. What kind of tip would you give those people in terms of how to surround yourself with, for example, still those kind of like-minded people?
Yeah. So I would look in your industry stuff. Like I would always network with these people. You know, always. Oh, I think by the way, there's some lag.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
just saw.
yeah, now it's good. Yeah, so always network. Like people in your industry, like reach out. You know, build a connection with those people. I mean, it's so important, and also physical events, right? Especially in
Mm-hmm.
the Netherlands, like everything is so close by. Like there's entrepreneurial events, etc. I would always try to invest in that because like who you know is more important than what you know. You know, like
Yeah,
connections is powerful.
yeah, definitely agree. Because you're living with someone as well, right? Like entrepreneur as well.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah, it's also because of networking. I just reached out. Like I knew a bunch of people in the space, and they had friends. And like that guy I didn't spoke to yet, and he had a big page and stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
just sent him a voice message. Hey man, would love to connect. And now this and this person. And yeah, man, like, and we started talking about Thailand, and he had plans to go there as well. We just connected on a bunch of stuff, and then a couple months later, like he knew I was in Thailand, and a couple months later, he came over. Actually, we started hanging out, living together,
Mm-hmm.
and right now we're literally in the same space. So we do partnerships. We do he does certain things for me. I do certain things for him, and we role play sales. You know, we do
Yeah,
marketing together. You know, we mastermind all kinds of ideas. It's really cool, man. And you got two minds at once. So like, if he
yeah,
has a problem, I can help him solve it, and if I have a problem, like he can help me. So it's really cool.
yeah. Exactly, like a big whiteboard on your wall and stuff. Just
Yeah,
crafting
yeah, yeah,
ideas. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
same.
We literally take a notebook and like we write down stuff and come up with solutions.
Yeah,
And yeah, man, always surround yourself with people that are growing every single day, and not just business, but all areas like fitness,
yeah,
dating,
yeah.
business, everything.
Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely agree. Because like, if you're just surrounding yourself with people online that are kind of just growing every day, and obviously like doing new stuff, it will kind of be limiting. Because if you're, for example, doing surrounding yourself with those kind of people in that area, and then you have fitness, for example, and you're kind of doing it half-ass, um, it doesn't really click in a way. And I've always believed that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So yeah, the same goes for fitness, going out, like everything. And yeah, what kind of difference in lifestyle, in, for example, if you compare back to the Netherlands and in Thailand where you're living now, what's the main difference?
Yeah, so the thing is, like, you can live a lifestyle here that in the Netherlands you would have to pay 10K per month, right, in expenses to live the same lifestyle. So here you have food delivery, right, $2 per meal. You have taxis, $2, $1, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Food is cheap. Yeah, rent is cheap. You have everything included: gym, sauna, swimming pool. I mean, everything is just so much 5 to 10 times cheaper. So
Yeah.
like if I spend 1K here, I would live the same lifestyle in the Netherlands for 10K, and that is just the thing. Like you can live like a wealthy person without actually being super wealthy. And
Yeah. Yeah.
look, everyone can make $2,000 per month online, for example, right? Like in the Netherlands, you would kind of scrape by, but in Thailand, you can live like a king, and that's the
Yeah.
beauty. You can just buy a plane ticket. Most of your problems are solved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely. It's really interesting, like to see those perspectives and obviously differences in lifestyle. Sorry. um, for example, if you just look at the Netherlands and you look at Thailand, I think obviously the main difference is obviously in the income of that country and the wealth of the country itself where you moved, for example. But for example, if you go to Thailand, I would recommend people or having X amount of euros to move there, or to have a sustainable income coming online, for example, because obviously digital nomads and everything like that's one of the biggest industries coming up, and still is.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, in terms of moving, you do have to have a sustainable thing that you can actually do without like being stuck to a location, sitting in an office or
yeah.
this or that. And that can be very hard, but I think it's definitely possible. I'm actually also planning on traveling a lot, like in the upcoming years, when I'm done with all my stuff, and yeah, just building up the business at the moment. And yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to come over to you guys once.
definitely, man. Definitely, always welcome. Yeah, and yeah. There's so many ways, man. Nowadays, like yeah, like you can have some money saved up, or you just have an income stream. But it can even be a side job online. Like there's so many ways. Like you can do appointment setting, right? Closing.
Mhm.
Um, what else? Like virtual assistant, social media manager. All these jobs. You're not a business owner, but you still can make good money online.
Yeah.
And yeah, you don't need a lot. Like I said, like you can live like a king for 1K
Yeah.
per month.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
And in terms of, for example, kind of moving your topic, with the current business you're running, have you do you really like invest back into the business, or do you like diversify more into, let's say, crypto, let's say stocks, like all that stuff, or what do you do with your
um,
money at the moment?
the thing I like to invest most in is myself, my knowledge, coaching programs, upgrading
Mhm.
my mindset, because I believe if you grow yourself, like you grow your business. So you're always a reflection of your business is a reflection of you, right? So like there's no better investment, first of all, than your business,
Mhm.
because that can give you the highest returns. Like if I only have $10,000 and I'm gonna invest in stocks, like it's not gonna change your life, right? You get 10% per year, that's 1K. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not gonna change anything. So I believe in increasing your skill sets, increasing your income, and then if you have a lot of extra money, then you can diversify. And I like to invest in myself, my business. And for example, right now I'm investing a lot in my brand. So I'm going to grow a lot of followers, do influencer promotions,
Yeah.
stuff like that to just increase the leverage, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And if you would just, for example, look at your current business, what would kind of be an estimate of your follower network, if you'd like to share that?
What was that, sir?
If you would look at your current business and like how things are running and stuff, what would be a current estimate of your follower network on Instagram, if you'd like to share that?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I have some partnerships running with some pages where like I'm basically on the page, but I don't own the page.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
yeah, I get like the leads from there, and I can do like I can book calls, close calls, and they get a cut from owning the traffic.
Yeah.
Right, so I got some pages set up there. I got a small personal brand of 6,000 followers. I'm starting a new one because the engagement is kind of low.
Yeah.
I wasn't consistent with the posting, so that's something I'm gonna do. And yeah, man. So I don't own. Yeah, I own one theme page. It's like 15,000 followers. Can get some leads as well, but that's something I want to work on. Increase my leverage.
Mm-hmm.
increase my following, because like I've been mainly working on sales, appointment setting.
Yeah.
That's how I've been making, yeah, money. I've been getting clients, but now I want to really focus on building an actual brand, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I do feel like owning something, obviously, it does come with a lot of problems and new things to think about. But I do think, for example, when owning the traffic or owning the source, kind of, would definitely be more beneficial or sustainable for a long term
Yeah.
future. But yeah, in terms of networking and stuff, I definitely feel like when you're trying to become a setter or DM close or page manager, something like that, just focus on positioning yourself and networking with high value people in terms of follower network and actually people that own the source, you know. And I
Yeah.
definitely know that you're pretty good at networking, so yeah, I think you've made a few good partnerships in that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I agree, like owning the source is very beneficial, because you can also decide what content to put up, right? And you build a community. Like if you just rent the page, it's kind of short-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely better to just own the traffic, and yeah, because you want to have a community, right? You want to have people in one place where you can just nurture them, give value, build a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of, for example, your mindset change, just kind of shifting the topic again, how did you feel or notice that change when, for example, moving to Thailand?
Um,
Did you become more productive in a way, or did you kind of lose FOMO, or like how, what did you feel when moving?
it was kind of like jumping in the deep, right? Jumping in the water and hoping you'll swim. Like you need to swim,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like you're forced to take action, and I love that actually,
Oh,
because
jeez.
if I would stay in college in a way, like I would always think like, oh, let me do college first and then business. So
Mm-hmm.
I would do prefer, yeah. Basically, business would not be number one. And now it was like I have to succeed. I have to take action, because otherwise I'm a failure, right? I will go
Mm-hmm.
back broke without money, probably get into college again or some job, and that was my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
So it pushed me in a way, and I like that, because entrepreneurship, like you have to be uncomfortable. Like you cannot be just comfortable, and yeah, like it's a good thing. It's just like going to the gym. Like if you are comfortable in your workout and you don't push yourself, you don't hit the weights, you're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna grow any muscle, or you're not gonna get fit, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So kind
it
of
was, yeah,
performing under pressure.
force.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like pressure creates diamonds, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely agree. So indeed, and especially with, for example, as we talked about before, networking, I do feel like that's very key to also building skills, networking, and obviously, um, yeah, deciding who you're gonna improve your skill set with, because I do think there are a lot of coaches and a lot of people online that can help you with specific things, but obviously choosing the right one is definitely going to be hard when, for example, starting out. But like, how did you feel? Um, like, how did you choose this person over this person in terms of, for example, coaching?
Usually I consume some content, kind of see their vibes, see their belief systems, what they stand for.
Mm-hmm.
I never really, if I don't know the dude, like I don't just buy the course and sign up. Like, no. Usually I watch their content, see what they're like, see what they believe in, see if they're not full of shit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like if they're transparent with like all the stuff they do, like the numbers or whatever, that would be good. But it's mainly like just results from their students and like their personality. Like if I've actually agree with what they stand for, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really important, because you don't want to learn from too many people that's like different beliefs. Like you cannot have five mentors for marketing, because they're gonna teach you all different stuff. Like you have to have one mentor and take action on that, and
Mm-hmm.
not get everything mixed up.
You mean
So
at the same time, or in general?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
do feel like multiple mentors, well, not at the same time, but eventually, like having more mentors in your life, definitely helps. Like, for example, if you take knowledge from one mentor and you see how mentor number two kind of, um, yeah, shows you a different way of seeing it or a different way of approaching it. Definitely think that's key as well.
Hmm.
But like, what are things you definitely invested in for your skill set?
Um, like I started off like with affiliate marketing,
Mm-hmm.
basically in 2018, 2019. So I bought a course on that, and it was basically taught, okay, traffic and conversions, right? So that's what it's about, and it's basically marketing and sales, right? Marketing, traffic, conversion, sales. If you understand marketing and sales, like you'll make good money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main things, and then selling in the DMs, booking calls, closing calls, um, growing followings on Instagram, stuff like that, and also like, yeah, how can you do it in a way where you sell other people's products and not just your own products?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Affiliate marketing is definitely a very popular industry coming up and still is. Obviously, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
For example, with TikTok, like the amount of traffic one video could get, and if you optimize everything in the right way, like the conversions would be insane. And
yeah, it's a really
yeah,
good opportunity. Like if you know how to create viral videos and you have a good offer, or you're good at sales, you can make a lot of money. Like it's a legit opportunity. Yeah,
yeah. And
it's not easy.
where would you recommend people to start with learning marketing and sales?
I would like find on just where you consume content, Instagram, YouTube, and see who you resonate with. You know, see, um, yeah, if you like their personality, just learn from those people. And if they have legit results,
Mm-hmm.
just try it out. Like, I mean, time is more valuable than money. You know, so like, just try stuff. In the worst case, you lose your money, but then like, what's the alternative? Just quit? No, you just keep going. You try new mentor.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I really think you just gotta try stuff. You know, like don't be afraid to fail because in school they'll teach you like, yeah, failing is bad or failure is bad, blah blah blah. But
Mm.
just make mistakes, man. Just freaking.
Yeah.
I've made so many mistakes. It's insane.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me. I'm all ears.
um, yeah. So, dude, I've bought courses that were just not good, and if I bought courses, even if it was good, I used to not take action. You know,
Mm.
I used to just procrastinate. I used to yeah, look for the next thing, like the next new video on YouTube, you know, instead of actually taking action. And
Yeah.
like right now I have a rule, like if I watch 1 hour of YouTube, I have to actually take 1 hour of action instead,
Mm-hmm.
like more than I'm watching
Yeah.
stuff. So the goal is always to take more action and that you're learning, you
Yeah.
know, because you
Yeah.
learn also from taking action. So I think a lot of people they buy a lot of courses and then they don't put it into practice. And
Yeah.
like it's kind of like it's those people that read books and then they read like 50 books per year, but like what are they doing, right? Like
Yeah.
are they
Yeah.
actually implementing? I mean, like I can take a year to implement one book. You know, if you read Think and Grow Rich, like that is stuff you gotta practice every single day. You cannot just read it and like a
Mm-hmm.
textbook in school. Like it doesn't work that way, you know. So I think practice is just putting
Makes
stuff in
perfect.
practice is important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely the same way goes indeed. What you mentioned with those books, like those books are actually written by people that have had experience for the last X amount of years in that industry. So, for example, Think and Grow Rich, right? And the thing is, you can't indeed expect to um, apply that knowledge or at least learn it in the time duration that you read the book in. You have to still to reflect on what you learned, write it down, go over the notes again, apply it in a different way. Like there's so many simple mechanics and stuff you can actually do to really learn something. And what I
yeah,
indeed feel like with school is, or at least at a few certain levels in school, they just show you all the things that you need to know, and kind of you kind of remember them. So you have to learn them, make a test, and see if you can like apply the stuff that you got taught. But then when it comes down to the real world, real world. Sorry, it's so much different. Because if you
yeah,
look at like how you applied or how certain factors play in, that just doesn't happen on a test. Like if you have a test at school or college, then it's like, well, what does this word mean? And in life it could be something like how the meaning of this word, how does that apply in this way? you know. So you kind of change perspective, kind of, and yeah, it's something I've always believed in myself as well. Like when I consume something or when I learn something new, then write it down or note it and start applying it immediately after, or at least X amount of time
Yeah,
after.
yeah. Because I don't get how people can read 50 books and apply it all. Like it's
Yeah,
not possible. So you're not applying the stuff. That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Reading is good, but take action on the stuff you learn.
Yeah, yeah, and the funny thing is, if you see the knowledge in those books, you can actually apply it in, for example, different areas as well. You know, like fitness or dating or family and relations. Like there's so many different ways you can look at it, and I think it's really funny because my perspective changed on that fairly recently, and it has been turning out pretty well. And what kind of books have you read before?
Um, the classic Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it changed my life in a way because these books, like, they don't give you a lot of practical stuff, but it shifts your mindset of damn, like, it is possible to not live like most people and,
Mm-hmm.
live paycheck to paycheck. And also a big one was the 4 Hour Work Week
Oh yeah,
because that
yeah,
inspired me to actually take that leap of faith and go to Thailand because like that book inspired me like it is possible people are doing it um, so and it's not the best book because I don't agree with 4 hour work weeks. I don't think you should have 4 hour work week. I mean, if you're passionate about what you do, like why
yeah,
work 4 hours? Like what's the
yeah,
point? Right?
yeah,
You don't want to like it's not going to make you happy. You need a purpose. You need something that you're actually passionate about.
yeah.
But yeah, it inspired me to take that leap because I think if you just kind of come up with it on your own, you might think like, am I crazy? Like, but other people, I saw other people are doing it, so that gave me the confidence. But okay, it's actually possible.
Yeah, yeah, kind of just seeing how they're living and how you can do the same. Yeah, yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
feel like dreams and stuff that actually seems impossible. For example, moving to Thailand or moving, for example, to Dubai. You know, like it all seems pretty impossible. But if you calculate everything and work everything out and actually do it, you know, I think it's well a lot more. It's much faster possible than you think, or I don't know how you say it, but I think it's a lot more possible
yeah,
than you think, and it's just limiting beliefs really, and yeah, that's definitely a big thing as well in sales, obviously, as you know, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and what are a few of
Yeah.
your goals for example, um, well, 2022.
Yeah, so the main goal for me is grow, like I said, my audience, my following. Like I need to have a community behind me because I didn't really have that yet because
Mm-hmm.
I was literally planning to put myself out there more, and then I got hit with COVID. So 3 months out, couldn't communicate, couldn't make videos, couldn't get on calls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my job right now, like to put more content out, attract more people, build a loyal brand. Because if you have that, like I truly believe if you have a brand, you have a voice, it's very easy to always have money, because you can serve more people basically. Like you
Yeah,
can connect with more people. Um, and then obviously like money is a byproduct of value. So the more value you can give, the more money you can make,
yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah, and
And with
obviously
less
they
effort.
yeah, and obviously they follow you. You're building a community, and as you said, well, you're buying stuff from people that you resonate with in terms of beliefs, for example, courses and stuff. So positioning self, you positioning yourself in a way that you resonate with the people who you're trying to sell to or provide value to, like your target audience. I think that's obviously one of the key factors how to build an actual good and quality brand and build
Yeah.
it fairly quickly. And obviously there's a lot of market research and stuff that goes into it, but I do feel like it's a lot easier than people think, um, because you can literally just do market research for a month, and I'm definitely sure you'll know the whole market inside out, and it's then just a matter of applying, I guess.
Yeah, it's putting out the message that resonates with your audience and they'll come to you and follow your stuff. And yeah,
Yeah,
that is in a nutshell, that's it. It's really simple. Like you put out what you attract what you put out, right?
mm-hmm.
Like if I start talking about certain stuff, like I'll attract people that are into, that
Yeah.
stuff, and if it's interesting enough, they'll keep following me.
Yeah.
And
Law of
yeah,
attraction. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's also one of
definitely.
the reasons why I actually started the podcast itself, like not to make a ton of money from it, but just to provide value. Because I obviously know a ton of people online that can provide actual really, really good value, for example, like yourself, to a lot of people, you know, and are doing great things with the online industry and providing value to other people, helping other people, or even running a very good business, you know, like a dropship business or a fitness coaching business, or I don't know. They're just pretty far in those perspectives, and um, how quick you can learn and actually network and adopt from someone else is just insane, you know. I mean, get to know one person, spend X amount of time with that person, provide tremendous value to that person itself, for example, making their content for free for a year, you know, and just making that boom, 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 and then just or kind of striking a deal. So, hey, Nick, I'd like to create a content for you for a year. I know you're trying to build up your personal brand, or at least a new one. Very cool. So I'd really like to help you with that. The only thing that I want in return is basically your kind of feedback and your support. So if I message you with a question that I have, then obviously like help me out and respond. You know, so you're kind of buying a coaching from someone, but in a different way. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah. If you don't
that
have money, like that's a good way to
yeah
do it. Like just provide value, right? Go literally go to the influencers you watch, like or just scroll on Instagram, message them like, how can I help? I want to work for free. You
yeah
know,
yeah
like nobody does this. Like I've been on a lot of influencer pages. Like I've logged in. I've been a closer. I've been an appointment setter. I barely see those messages, man. Like where are the messages of?
yeah yeah
Because like I was behind the scenes in those businesses. We needed people. We
yeah
needed salespeople. We needed appointment setters. We needed content creators, editors.
mm-hmm.
Like, dude, if you have a skill, message a bunch of people, work for free, and then if you provide value, you're gonna get paid eventually. You
yeah
know, maybe a couple
yeah
of weeks, couple of months, but and nobody does this, man. Like,
yeah
there's so much opportunity. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also kind of the fear of putting yourself out there. I guess I've had that fear for a while, or at least for the last couple of years. Like people around me, like living around me, I have a pretty judging opinion, and I obviously feel judged. Meanwhile, they don't, you know. So it kind of has to do with me as well, and it's just when you're putting yourself out there online, you're basically creating a pretty vulnerable person. At least if you haven't made it big yet, you know. So, for example, you telling your story, your perspective on life as an 18-year-old. Let's say you do that, you know, you create all these videos online and you put yourself out there, and then all the people that kind of want to be in that spot or want to have the courage that you actually need and have to publish those videos, they talk down on you and they drag you down with them to step on you and just lift themselves up. And it's something that happens a lot, you know, but you just have to focus on yourself. Like, you do you. It's definitely
Yeah.
a thing I live by as well. And just do it, you know, like the fear of judging and everything that I had when, for example, putting out a video of myself like 1 or 2 years ago, it was crazy, you know, and now I'm doing it like this, and the amount of how much you grow in such a short amount of time is just insane, and it's obviously also has to do with networking with other people, but yeah, just not when you don't have a business, for example, when you're not at a level, people fairly easily kind of look down at you, talk shit about you, and it makes it a lot harder to do all that stuff. Did you feel the same way when, for example, putting yourself out there the first time on social media?
Yeah, yeah. Like I was scared as well. I think everyone kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's something you have to overcome. You know, something you have to go through. It's yeah. I think you kind of learn it like the older you get,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
see like how 30-year-olds don't give a shit, right? Or 40-year-olds, like they know themselves. So it's usually a more bigger problem for younger people. I
I
think like
I
I
do
think the
think,
older I
sorry to cut you off, but I do think that's really because of the responsibility. You know, so when you get older, you have a lot more responsibilities, and that kind of takes your time away to not be able to judge in a way, you know. So for example, people between 12 and 20, let's say, they have a lot of time. They have so much time, and obviously it has to do with age, comparing yourself to other people on social media, in real life, all that stuff, insecurities that come with it. So just developing yourself, really, everyone's just developing their own body and stuff, and getting older. But eventually,
Yeah.
when people do their own thing, they really don't give a fuck, and that's always
Yeah.
been the fact and the case. But then people who don't have a lot of time to, or have a lot of time to do that thing, they they just don't have the responsibilities to kind of push that over, you know. And yeah, I think that's the main factor, like just responsibilities. Everyone just goes their own path, and eventually it's just like, well, I'm older, I have more responsibilities. uh, I don't really care what you do. I have my job, I have my children, I have this, I have that, and just focus on that, you know. And that focus you can also try and apply that at a younger age. And yeah, obviously you started fairly young as well. So do you feel kind of a judging sense in that way when you started out?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really like you have to kind of understand yourself, right? Like if you're lost, for example, like as an 18-year-old, most of us are lost, right? We don't know what we want in life. We don't even know who we are. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is the problem. Like if you're not 100% confident of knowing what you're doing on this planet here, like then of course you're going to be afraid of other people's opinions because you don't even know yourself. But like once you start understanding, okay, this is who I am, this is what I do, and then you just don't give a shit what other people think because like it doesn't matter, right? Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
important. So I think it comes with like kind of life experience where you can shortcut it in a way and just yeah start putting yourself go through it because you'll realize it's not that big of a deal
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
like not gonna change anything.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I also think just, well, at least cutting out a majority of people that do kind of judge you in a sense, or in a way. I do think there will always be friends that are fairly toxic. Like everyone has that. Just, well, not interact with them as much or cut them out. You know, and cutting them out is like the last option. Um, but like just,
Yeah, don't be
yeah,
around them.
yeah, yeah, especially that. And obviously I'm fairly young as well. I think I know everything, you know. That's just my age, and it will probably turn out that I will just look at my 18-year-old self right now, in 2 years, and think, well, I thought I knew it all, you know. And the podcast is also just to give perspectives on life, and on certain things as well, as an 18-year-old, nearly 19, um, and kind of share that with other people as well, you know, like other, like for example, what's really interesting is that, for example, 30-year-olds when they were 19, or like let's say 50-year-olds when they were 19, the whole um, generation and all the situations were so much different, you know, like the culture, the everything was so much different. And now, because our generation is growing up with so many distractions, dopamine, all these, well, pretty toxic things, at least that's what I feel like, but also a lot of um, how do you say that? A lot of freedom. You know, that's also a big thing. A lot of freedom, a lot of
Yeah.
chances to do so many things, and because of all those chances, obviously people don't, or they kind of take them for granted. And I definitely feel like that perspective should definitely be shared. So, for example, your perspective, my perspective, like our generation. Because, for example, I was with family, you know, and for the last week, and in England, and I basically showed my uncle how Instagram works, or what it actually is, and he was like, "Well, what's Instagram? You know, how does this work?" And I was pretty amazed by him not knowing a single thing at all, you know, because the the gap between that space, you know, you and them in terms of age and experience and that sort of stuff is so big, you know. They have so much more life experience, but you have so much more new experience with the digital stuff. And also the how fast we actually learn nowadays is just crazy as well, you know. Like
Yeah.
we have so much information coming to us and so much information available on the internet that it's obviously, it can be very confusing when having 10 different people tell you marketing is red, marketing is yellow, marketing is gray, you know, and then you're like, what is marketing? And yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I wanted to say something, but I forgot.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sometimes I go on a rambling streak with talking, but
Yeah,
no, but like I think life perspective maybe, or like the difference in generation, or
yeah. Like, I mean, some people say like, yeah, you don't have the right to talk if you're 18, right? Or,
yeah,
because you
yeah,
don't have life experience. But dude, when it comes to social media, I mean, the 18-year-old knows more than the 50-year-old. You know, like it's
mm,
their world. They grew up with it. Like that's why you have nowadays so many successful young entrepreneurs. It's because of the internet, right? Like
yeah,
social media. Um, and I think, yeah, every perspective matters, and like it's never the truth. You know, like for example, yeah, you might there's millionaires, and you might think, yeah, what he does is the way to go, but there's so many other ways to
yeah,
do it, and
yeah,
like there's millionaires contradicting each other. Well, this is the best method, or this is the
yeah.
best method. So there's no right or wrong. You know, it's just their perspective and what worked for them. But you should never see it as okay, this is the only way to do it, or like this, yeah, this is how it should be, because I think it's for everyone different. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that with changing routines as well. You know, like a few years ago, I was so obsessed with finding the best habits, finding the best routine for the most amount of productiveness and a lot of stuff. But basically, I try to find the perfect thing, and Alex Hormozy also talks about it. Like there is no perfect routine. It's so different for everyone, and the same goes for the way they run the business, the way they manage the team. Obviously, there are streamlines in it, and there are specifics and basic stuff that you can do and apply. But it's so different for everyone. You know, I started to well, I talked about it on the podcast before, like habits, like trying to how do you say that? Try out a habit in a different way, and also in a different stage of my life. Obviously, like so for example, when I'm 16-year-old trying out cold showers or reading this amount of books and this and this and this, like there were so many habits that I stacked on top of each other, not knowing that actually combining them in a different way would create a good routine for myself that actually makes me feel good and creates the more productive feeling. And
Yeah.
how did you feel, for example, the well, trying out habits? You know, it must have changed when moving from the Netherlands to Thailand.
Yeah, habits. Basically, I always lacked when it comes to building habits a bit, because I never had like the discipline. I
Mm,
always kind of was, I don't know, ADHD here, there, change it all the time.
yeah,
But I actually built up not even a good habit. I built up the habit of like doing work really late, and like waking up really late. So I used to work at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I wake up at 10, 11.
yeah,
But I don't know, it still worked. Like I still made good money, I still made progress. So
mm,
I think it doesn't matter as long as you move forward every single day. And like there's things ideally you want to build good habits, of course, and your habits define
mm,
your life. But it's not like you have to do everything perfect, because there's also like when it comes to belief systems, like there's a lot of millionaires, old school millionaires, that thought, okay, you have to work 16 hours per day,
yeah,
right? It's the only way to become successful. And like one of my mentors, Bastian, you know him, Bastian
mm,
Slot, right?
yeah,
He works maybe 3, 5 hours per day, and his team does all the work. And he's 22 years old, makes $500,000 per month or something. So
yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's just so many ways to do it. So you just got to try stuff and see what works for you, I think.
yeah, yeah. Definitely agree. And do you feel like you said that you worked at like 1, 2, 3 a.m. at night? Do you feel like when you look back at that time, do you feel like you missed something back then, or kind of you felt like you were rejecting your health, kind of, or
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason I changed it up. Now I try to wake up 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
yeah,
Because of my health. And I talked with a performance coach, and he said it's just not healthy, because
yeah,
you want to wake up when the sun rises, right? That's natural. Like you're gonna run into health issues if you do that long term.
mm-hmm,
And obviously health is most important. Like I think we can all agree on that. Like if you don't
mm,
have your health, you have nothing. So like always health should be number one priority. So now I changed it up. But it's not like people say you have to be an early bird to make money. No, you don't have to.
yeah,
But
Yeah, but
Um,
still, that thing what we talked about before comes into play here as well. You know, like uh, finding what's perfect for you instead of copying someone that says it's perfect, and
yeah,
that's definitely a main factor. But I just want to come back to the talk where or the topic we talked about with the generation difference. For example, an 18-year-old knowing a lot more about social media than a 50-year-old. Obviously, that is very true, and I feel like that kind of gets neglected by people with more experience and obviously that are fairly older in a different generation and stuff. But still, what I find pretty interesting is that you actually can't neglect someone online who actually proves and has the proof and has like the results to show that he knows it, and then says, "Oh, he's 18, he doesn't know it," you know, or he's 16
mm,
and he doesn't know it. So there are a ton of people, or a ton of like the generation is so different. You know, you can't when you're in a different generation, you can't like say, okay, well, this generation does this different. So because I grew up, or because we had this when I was 16, that's the same here. You know, that just isn't true. And when you, for example, look at drop shippers or people who make money with crypto, all that stuff, like you can say, oh yeah, well, Nick, get a job, whatever. Crypto, what you're doing now is so bad, and it will turn out bad. You'll be broke, and then suddenly in a few years you'll be a millionaire, or in a few months even, and then it's like, well, you can't neglect that you actually became a millionaire. You know, so the same goes for the marketing. If you have a specific skill set at a young age and you build that up, and you actually have the proven results of your skill, there's no way people can say you're spitting crap. You know, you're not spitting facts. You're spitting crap. That just you can't do that. You know, and the same
yeah,
goes for the marketing that you can do for other companies. So the social media management agency or SMMA kind of style, where you kind of run the social media or build up social media for companies that are the companies are run sorry by 50 year olds, like in a very different generation. So you coming in and actually giving them results and actually showing, well, I have so many email conversions, I have so many sales that booked in, I have so much traffic that I brought in organically after me being doing this, you know. uh, you can't neglect that, and the world is changing so fast, and our generation is adopting insanely fast to everything. So obviously we're on social media a lot, so obviously we track trends, we see what's different, we track how the algorithm changes, and we notice that. And that's something, well, obviously companies have a bit of trouble with. But did you
yeah.
did you notice that as well in terms of like older or people from a different generation neglecting knowledge or uh, stuff that people from other generation, a younger generation, know?
Yeah, people are still a bit old school, you know, so they think it's all about the degree or whatever. But I think it's changing, you know, more and more companies are starting to realize I don't care about your degree, like what can you
Yeah.
bring to the table, right? Like what's the value you can bring? And as long as you already always can provide value, you always make money. Like you, yeah, you can always make money. And the thing is, like, business is a sport, and it's like accessible to anyone, right? 18-year-old plus, like your age
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. It's just what value do you bring, and
I think it's
that's
also
it.
to
Like,
do with just action, you know, like taking action on learning how to provide value or actually providing value, like what we
yeah,
talked
like
about
your
before.
skill sets, like you have to put it into practice. You have to put it into work. And yeah, age doesn't matter. Like the internet made it so that age doesn't matter. Like an 18-year-old can be more developed than a 50-year-old because that 18-year-old maybe bought a course from someone that has all
Yeah.
the experiences and then he perfectly executed it. I
Or
mean,
took multiple parts of information and just packaged it together. I think that yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can also do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, just in terms of for example, where you would see yourself in, let's say, 2 years, or what's a kind of, well, it's a fairly interesting and simple question. Where would you see yourself in 5 or 2 or 10 years, you know? But like knowing what you have and have done now, where would you want to be, or do you think you'll be?
Yeah. So my goal is to just be my best version. So I want to level up in fitness. I want to level up in business, social circle, dating, just be my best version. And I think for me, like Thailand is the ultimate kind of location to do that
Mm.
because yeah, you just have a good lifestyle without breaking the bank. So I can put more money into my business instead of people that live fancy in LA, for example.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, man, and just I want to live a lifestyle where I don't have to worry about money. I can basically buy everything. I can support my family. I can travel. I can invest in myself, work on myself. I'm not a slave of, of the system, right? I can decide my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really about just freedom, basically, and just doing what I want to do. And then in terms of the higher goal, is like I want to build a community where I'm truly like making an impact. You know, like it's not about me. Like if you want to be fulfilled, you have to find something higher than yourself. You know, some
Yeah.
sort of purpose. So I just want to serve people, man. Like get no testimonials every day. Like man, like with this strategy, change my business, change my life.
Mm.
That's ultimately what fulfills you, what drives you. And I just want to build a community and host live events, you know, invite people to Thailand and just come freaking mastermind in person, like
Yeah.
and just have a good time and level up and yeah, man, become the best version, you know, of
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
What it's about.
Yeah, that's insane, man. And do you think you'll be living in Thailand, let's say in 2 years, or would you be traveling, or no clue, or?
I think so. I think I'll use it as a base for my 20s at least, and then just travel from there, you know, have trips, so many places, excuse me, so
Yeah.
many places to go and just have Bangkok as like a base where you can take flights
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, do trips, etc. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the goal.
And in terms of Bangkok, just coming back to that really quickly, we talked about it before, but do you notice a big culture difference in the way of doing things besides like you paying $2 for a meal?
Yeah, the people like Buddhism is really big here,
Mm-hmm.
so it's very nice, kind, like sweet people. Like for example, if I give the delivery guy 1,000 baht, which is maybe 25 euros, for them
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty a lot of money, right? And I tell them to change because I don't have small cash
Yeah.
on hand. So they have to change it in the store. If they want, they can run away with it. They can just walk away, take the money.
Yeah.
They always come back. They always come back with the money, and they're just very good people. You know, very good people. And for example, I'm not talking bad about different cultures, but if you would do that in South America, right, Colombia, Brazil,
Mm.
he would not return. You know, it's
Yeah.
just a different culture. Like they would take the money and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I like about Thailand, and also people live really chill. It's not like in the West, like everything has to be bigger, better. No, people are happy with
With the
small
small things.
stuff. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, the small things. Selling ice cream, dude. Like right now, I hear someone selling ice cream, like shouting, like ice cream. Like, dude, the guy is happy. You know, the guy has fun
Yeah.
and like I don't really think you need a lot of money to like be happy. You know? Like it's about choosing like gratitude because if you choose gratitude, like you're happy automatically. Like it
Mm.
turns you into a state where you're happy, right? And there's always something to be grateful for. So I think happiness is a choice,
Yeah, and
in a
gratitude,
way.
I think gratitude is also kind of a byproduct of thinking, you know. There I think it starts with thinking. If you think of yourself in a negative way, or at least have a negative perspective on things, that's something I do personally struggle with from time to time, because I overthink. I'm a perfectionist, you know, and then stuff doesn't go well, or like there's so much stuff. But yeah, it just starts with thinking. Thinking you can do it, or thinking you can fail, or thinking you'll become a millionaire, you know, or thinking you'll, um, I don't know, like there's so many. It just starts with thinking, because thinking leads to step two, step two leads to step three, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think thinking is also a bit flawed. Like your mind will kind of fuck you over, right? Like you said with overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I think we should kind of, it's more like sometimes feeling, gut feeling. Like people say it's bad, right? You make bad decisions on gut feeling.
Yeah.
But me going to Thailand and like traveling the world while I was not making a lot of money and dropping out of college. It's not logic. It's not like,
I
oh, let
I
me do
think
that now.
I think it would be a combination of thinking, feeling, and action, because action would lead to a certain feeling. That feeling would create a certain
Yeah,
thinking, and that thinking would create a certain action. So I think that's kind of
yeah.
the loop. Because
Like Tony
indeed,
Robbins talks
yeah,
about, like changing how you feel changes the thoughts you actually
mm,
um, attract.
yeah,
So like sometimes if you feel down, don't try to think and meditate. Like no, just go outside, take a walk, or like go take a swim or do something, and go to the gym, and then you change your state, you change how you feel, and then you attract better thoughts. You know?
yeah, yeah. Very true, very true. I think, well, I think that the trap here is that changing your thinking is definitely way easier than, or a fairly easy road to go to when, for example, being in a negative state, than finding how to feel better. Because attracting a certain other feeling is kind of like you have to think, okay, how do I do that, and then you start overthinking and stuff. So I think that the loop is so interesting in terms of the psychology perspective on it. So the same goes, for example, when um, the feeling that you get when, for example, watching your favorite football team, for example, win the World Cup, you know, like that feeling is created by what you see, you know. So that's a really interesting metric as well, because let's say, like, if you remove the actual happening, then, and that feeling could be created like instantly, then from another thing, or kind of manipulating the way you get that feeling, or having a different trigger to it but still getting the same feeling. I think that's really interesting, because for example, with productiveness, or um, when people are feeling really depressed or down, you changing that, and kind of manipulating the psychology part on that. For example, when um, looking at, well, my age, for example, like 18, 19 year olds, well, between 16 and 20, let's say, there's such a kind of view that's created on, well, people with that age, and for example, going out, doing this, doing that, and the ambitions I have, and thinking and things I want to do, basically don't really correlate with that as much as well, I want to do, and it's something I do struggle with in a way, because you're always trying to find the balance between those things. Obviously, you don't want to skip the time from 16 to 20, for example, with going out or doing fun things with friends, but there's still a big gap between me with self-improvement and stuff, and improving myself on a daily basis, growing a business and learning from that, networking with people that are fairly, well, far with the stuff they do, and then still, like, having the friends that you have, but not being kind of at the same level in a way. I don't want to see it or perceive it as levels, because everyone just goes their own way, and moves their own pace. It's not a race, and still, it's kind of difficult, but also interesting to think about.
Yeah, it can be tough to have that balance as an entrepreneur. You know, like because like it's hard to drink like next day, for example. Like how can you run your business
Yeah,
how do you call it, efficiently, if you are hangover, right? Hangover.
yeah.
So it doesn't work. So it is tough. Like I think it's a bit of a sacrifice. Like you can still have a social life and stuff, but you cannot do it as much as a non-entrepreneur.
Yeah,
Let's call it that one, or like someone that's not into self-development.
yeah,
I think because yeah, you're doing something kind of extraordinary. Like as an entrepreneur, like you're in the 10% or less. So I think you can not have the same life as them in a way. You know, you can still have it, but a bit.
I do think the way you said, for example, being in the 10%, I don't fully agree on that, because still it's different worlds. Like, you're in the 10% of a different way of living, for sure. That's definitely true. Or at least a much smaller group does what you're, or takes the path that you went on. That's, I think, the best way to describe it. But still, for example, there are people out there who are studying like crazy but get a really good job and become really good at that job. So lawyers, doctors, whatever, teachers, you know. So I do think being in the top 1 or 10% is kind of like a vague subject, because some people say, okay, well, if you study every day, if you improve yourself every day, you'll be in the top 1%. But defining what is the actual top 1% is very hard, you know, because there are some people who live a very positive and thinking and way of life, and that you can also call that the top 1% in a way, but then on the positive thinking side, and then you have the top 1% in this and this and this area. So I think it is kind of, well, a fairly interesting subject for sure, but I don't think you can say like, okay, well, this is the top 1% and that's how it is. Same goes for habits, you know, this is the best habit that you have to take, and if you don't, you'll fail. That just isn't the case.
Yeah, it depends on your goals, like how far you want to take it, I guess. But I think like if you want to build a business and you want to make at least 10, 20K per month, whatever, I think you are at least in the top 10%. But obviously it's different. Like there's also a lot of people that do other stuff, like athletes, for example, and they don't drink a lot. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on like how serious.
What
you
would
want
you
to take
define
it.
as the top 1 or 10%?
The top 10% or the top 1%?
Whatever, both.
In what area or like?
Just like, how would you define that? Like you said, well, if you run a business and you're making 10 to 20K a month or reaching for that goal, you're definitely in the top 1%, I think you said. But
No,
what would
top
you,
10%.
top 10%? Okay, what would you define as the top 10%?
It's people that have their own business and make more than 10K per month. Like then you definitely, I think it's even less than the top 10%, because most people just don't have that. They don't do that. You know, it's just like an athlete. Like in football, only a small percent of people make it. So
Oh, and you
I don't
mean
know
the
what.
top 10% in business, you mean?
No, I
Or
mean like in income, like in and like as
oh,
you
in income,
develop
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, income and develop as a person, I think, because yeah, like if you take the percentage of people that make 10K plus per month with a business, like it's less than 10%, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but
less than
like
10% of entrepreneurs,
being
or like
being in the top 10%, for example, in the perspective of, for example, the income area, fairly true.
yeah,
But like going back to what I said earlier, for example, if someone is for example, Wim Hof, you know, the Iceman, or
mm,
um I don't know his name. There was another guy, but let's say Wim Hof, right? You can he's in a different 10%, you know, but he still can be in a 10%. So it's yeah, I think it really depends on how you define it, because if you define it as, okay, well, you're in the top 10% when you make this amount of money in the money category, definitely true.
yeah, depends on the category, but I mean like all categories, right? Like if you want to be an athlete and you want to be in the top 10% of like just how good you are, right?
Mm,
If you want to be a professional athlete, that's the top 10%. Let's call it that way. It's a bit vague, but
yeah.
yeah, like you cannot live the lifestyle of like a guy that's average Joe, you know?
No, yeah, that's very true. That's really true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think indeed the perspective on it is really well, not vague, but like um the definition of what the actual 10% is, or this or that, like is so different for other people, because if you in business it's very true, you know, like you're in the top 10% when you do this or this, or when you make this or this, but yeah, it's just a really interesting subject, actually. Might be a good podcast to talk about. Like it kind of goes to the philosophy part and the side, you know, like what would you define as a good man, or what would you define as good, because you said, okay, well, if you are in the top 10% and you do all these things, you're good, or you're something like that. And yeah, it's really interesting to talk about that as well, like what defines good, you know, like Is it someone who goes out? Well, someone who goes out 24/7 can also do the same stuff you do while you're developing yourself, but it really depends on the person. That's how I see it.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone has different goals, different things they want to do, different things they value.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, to kind of finish off the podcast, was a pretty interesting subject to finish it off. But if you have any tips or takeaways for people before we finish this episode.
Any takeaways? Yeah, get mentors. Get mentors. That is my takeaway. Like, always learn from someone that is where you want to be, and it doesn't matter what it is. Fitness, like I said, all the areas in life. Always get mentors because time is limited, and you don't have time to figure it out all yourself. So like, especially if you want to learn a lot of things, you want to not just business but a lot of other stuff. Yeah, get mentors, take the shortcut, and just never give up on the stuff you learn, and take action on the stuff you learn. It's my biggest advice, because the best investment is always yourself. So.
Well, great advice, great advice. Well, thanks for being on the podcast, Nick, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, it was a good episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as well. And yeah, we'll speak soon, Nick.
I appreciate it, man. It was awesome.
Thanks again.